Hi everyone, my name is Mezonic. I'm an international artist, producer, and songwriter. I'm gonna go ahead and plug my album right quick before I get started with the discussion. The album, I don't know if you can see it good. Okay, this is inspired to Redemption of the Ghettos Worldwide. You can order your copy today. Order your copy on my website is www.mrpellc.com/inspire, INSPIRE, the number 2. And it's also on iTunes, Amazon. And one last thing I forgot to say on the last video. For those of you overseas or record stores that's interested in selling this, you could purchase it at a wholesale rate. I'm gonna have my contact information under this video, so if you want to sell this album, I'll sell it to you at a discounted rate, so that way you could make money off of it too. But it's a good album. Okay, today we're gonna be talking again about building black wealth, but we're gonna be focusing on banks. So there are black-owned banks throughout the country, and we want to focus on the top 20 black-owned banks. So let's say we have the top 20 black-owned banks do some networking. They come together to network, and not only that, but implement a plan to provide mortgage loans, auto loans, small business loans, and also like laptops or computers to the elderly or the poor. And this is the top 20 banks. And this ties directly into the churches, but I'm not going to talk about the churches right now. So you have black-owned banks changing the whole mortgage structure. How is that going to happen? Well, the typical mortgage is 25, 30-year mortgage, and honestly, that's way too long. A lot of things could go wrong. People could lose their jobs. People could decide to move. People could lose a loved one and decide to move. So the best way to deal with that situation is by the best way to deal with that situation is by providing loans of a shorter term. So anywhere from like 5 to 10 to 15 years. I think 15 years should be the max on the loans. So a 15-year mortgage is not bad compared to a 30-year. You'll become a homeowner in a faster time, and this is one of the things that's going to help to build black wealth. Because if you have your home paid off, then if you're still working for someone, or if you have your own business, you'll have a whole chunk of money every month that you could use for whatever else. The same thing with auto loans. I think they should drop auto loans to about 2 years, 2.5, 3 years max. And they're still gonna make money off the interest. The interest rate also has to drop if you want to implement this system. But they're still gonna make money off the interest, and that's gonna actually empower people to own their cars within 2 to 3 years time than 5 years or longer. Small businesses is gonna vary because it depends on how much you want. If you're a college graduate just starting out and you want to start with your own business, they have to check to see your credit history, and maybe start you off with a smaller loan, and over time you kind of build yourself up as far as your credit, and they'll just give you more loan later on. But yeah, that could be a way too for small businesses to really sprout up in the African American or the colored, as far as dealing with African Americans or people of color. The next thing was Yeah, laptops or desktops. So there are a lot of elderly people and poor people that don't have access to computers, or they just don't have computers. I mean, some of them do go to the library, but some of them don't know how to use it. So that could be a way for these banks to implement that system of providing these laptops. I'm talking about laptops for the price range anywhere from 100 to about 250. Nothing too expensive. You know, some basic where the elderly or the poor people could have computer access. Well, someone will ask the question, who's going to provide the funding? The banks could provide the funding for that, or the banks could work with non-profit organizations that collect money to help out this type of cause. So the banks could definitely work with non-profit organizations to provide these computers or laptops. And the next part is gonna focus on training these elderly or poor people. So who's gonna train these people? They have computers now, but they don't know how to use it. Well, my last video talked about college graduates or high school graduates volunteering. So volunteering is a good way to get this going. You could have college graduates, high school graduates. Anyone could really volunteer, but I mean, you might have a few nonprofit organizations that cater to this type of stuff, or you just have freelance volunteers that will come out to neighborhoods and help these elderly people or poor people to learn the basic use of computer. Things like writing a letter through email or just a regular letter through Microsoft Word. Nothing too elaborate, just basic skills. Learning how to search on Google for certain things, and just showing them stuff like that. Teaching them how to check their emails and different things like that. This could also spark an opportunity for the volunteers, because if you're training somebody and you're not going to be at the home all day long, they will probably want you to come back and teach them some more. Their relatives might see that and want you to be a trainer as well. So that could all be a reason for you to make some money as a small business owner. You'll end up doing your own business because just from that service, as simple as that. The next thing I want to go into is churches. Again, we talked about churches in the last video, about them pulling money together. It's important for churches to work together, especially in each city. So, I mean, not saying they should put all the money into a pot, but I'm just saying they should all work together, have like a committee and start putting money together. It could be 5 churches or 10 black churches doing this, and they could have a set amount to put in weekly. But for instance, they could put in money and affect major change. So if there's an incident in the city that involves a police officer and an African American teenager or whoever, and African American male, the churches could say, you know what, we're tired of this situation. Instead of, it's still good to protest because it sparks like a nationwide information, so the whole nation is informed of what's going on. But the real change is going to come if the churches have the money to pay lobbyists in Washington, D.C. So if you have money to pay the lobbyists or a lobbying company in D.C., that company could speak on your behalf, and the positive changes could come as far as changing the law, as far as changing the way how the police are treating young black men. That change could come a little bit faster just because you have a lobbyist that's working on your behalf and paying. I mean, once you pay the lobbyist, they know the ropes. They'll go about it the way they should, and that will spark a major change. So, but that's not going to happen by you going to every black home and collecting money, but it is going to happen because a lot of black people do go to church, and a lot of black people do pay the tithes and pay the offerings, and whatever the church generates, if they start working with other churches, that money will grow. That money will grow. So I mean, even if they don't have the amount of money in one city, they could reach out to another city of black-owned churches, and these churches could say, you know what, we have money as well. We're gonna fight for this cause because eventually it's gonna affect us as well, and we wanna spark a positive change. We wanna change the laws or whatever the case is. So that's where the churches come into play. The churches also come into play dealing with the banks. So you have these top 20 banks, and there are more black-owned banks or banks that are owned by people of color throughout the country. Some of them are smaller, but the whole thing is networking. They have to network, and they have to be of the same network. So you have the churches who are collecting the tithes and offerings every week. They could use this money, you know, I mean, they could use the money that they put in the savings with other churches in the black banks. So now you have these black banks that have the money to reinvest in the community, as opposed to investing in a corporate white bank per se, like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, whatever, and these banks are not really reinvesting in the neighborhoods. They're actually kicking people out of the hood and rebuilding those hoods. So if you're investing in the black, and it can't just be one black bank that's doing that. It has to be a team, a network of black-owned banks that's working together for the same cause. It has to be a network of black churches that's coming together and pulling resources and putting money together for this particular cause. That's the only way it's going to work. But yeah, so if the churches are able to put this money every single week into black-owned banks and encourage even people in their church to invest in these banks will have more people of color putting money in their banks, which will in turn yield a positive result, because these same banks would say, you know what, well, now we have more money to reinvest in our people. We're going to do this mortgage loan. It's just going to be a trickle down effect. Basically, they're going to say, we have more money now to reinvest in the black community. We're going to provide mortgage loans. We're going to provide auto loans. We're going to provide small business loans. And that's how it's going to work. It's going to have to be a trickle down effect. But if people don't even know the black owned banks, if people putting money in churches and it's not getting reinvested into the community, it's not really helping anyone. So just to recap, we talked about the top 20 black owned banks and other banks. The thing about having a network system is the moment you start, other people will follow. So if they start with this, some people might start contacting a network of banks to join. That way you'll have even more banks joining in. But yeah, to recap, we talked about the top 20 black-owned banks having a network system and implementing a plan to provide mortgage loans with a shorter term, and auto loans, and small business loans, and even providing computers and laptops for the elderly in the community. And we also talked about the funding for that could come from, of course, financing the loan, the banks financing the loan, or the non-profit organizations they work with to pay for the computers. The next part is the training the elderly and the poor on the basic computer knowledge or usage. Has to come from volunteers, graduates, college graduates, or high school graduates should be able to do that. But they could either freelance or partner up with a company to do that. And then the last thing we talked about was churches, black-owned churches, uh, putting money together to be able to pay lobbyists in Washington D.C. to affect positive change, like things that are happening in the black community that's not right. These churches should be able to pull money together in every single city, and basically say, you know what, this is happening in our community and we need change. So, this is probably the only way it's gonna really work. I mean, protesting is good, but protesting brings a lot of awareness. But the real change comes faster if it has a dollar sign attached to it. So again, I'm just gonna quickly plug all my stuff. If you want consulting on your small business, you don't have some idea, you need ideas to just get your business going, feel free to contact me. I'll have my contact information under here. Please, please, please purchase this album. This is a fun album. I have a music video that's dropping hopefully this week or next week with one of the songs on there. It's called Victory Laps, and I have a reggaeton beat on there that I did. I kind of had fun with it, did some like reggae stuff to it, and even rapped in the hip hop I was talking about in the other video, Liberian accent. I did some other stuff on there that's really interesting and fun. The album is good sounding. Even though I have a lot of positive messages, I still made it fun. So please purchase your copy, or if you want to sell this, you can purchase it at a wholesale rate, and we'll work the details out. But just contact me. I'll have my contact information under. Is www.mrpellc.com/inspire the number 2. And if you have technology that you want to get fixed and you don't want to spend a lot of money, feel free to contact me for that as well. Like TVs, I do a lot of flat screen TVs, so just contact me. I mean, I'll charge you a really low fee, but we'll work something out, and I'll show you exactly what to do. You could get a computer technician and pay him like $25 or whatever, and save yourself a whole lot of money. But the last thing is, all the artists out there, basically you want beats, like different sounding beats, or even mastering and mixing, feel free to contact me. I'll have my contact information under. Everyone, please enjoy your day. One love. Peace.